as well. So I work it out. I finish out what God had started in saving me by His grace, and you work out your own salvation. And that's the plan of God for your life. I have no idea what God's plan is for your life. Okay? No one could have ever guessed. I would have never guessed in a million years that I'd be in Canada as your pastor. Of all the things I could have thought of, I could have thought of maybe being a cowboy, which I wanted to be one time. Okay? I actually wanted to be a garbage man one time. When I was a little kid, I used to sit on the curb, have my lunch. The garbage men would take their lunch and sit on the curb. I'd go out, ask my mother if I could go out and sit with them. I wanted to be a garbage man. Okay? If you would have told me you'd be a pastor in another country, you and I have no idea how God is going to use us. But we must know that He wants to use us. And He has a wonderful plan for our lives to accomplish. And that's what Paul's saying. Work out your own salvation. Hear how it's to be worked out. With fear and trembling. Okay? It's a fearful thing. The writer of Hebrews says to fall in the hands of the living God. We are to walk in godly fear as we enter 2022. Who knows what's going to go on this year? Nobody has any idea. For our world, for our church, and for us individually. We have no idea whatsoever. We must walk in a godly fear and trembling. Trembling that God, should I fail? Should I turn the focus from you onto me and start working out my will for 2022? Then I'm walking not in the fear of the Lord. I'm walking in the pleasure of the world or my own selfish pursuits. So work out, Paul says, your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God which worketh in you. So it's the second time that word work has appeared. So we are to work as God is working. See, if it's just you and I working, we'd never be able to accomplish God's will for our life. But it's God working with us. Okay? God is trying to help us to accomplish. He knows how hard change is. He knows the enemies. He knows the obstacles that you and I are up against. He knows our past. He knows what we failed. He knows which enemy it is that has had the greatest victory in our lives. Maybe it was the devil. Maybe it's the world. Maybe it's the old nature. He knows all of that, but He interjects Himself personally into our own salvation. He's going to help us to accomplish His will. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of His good pleasure. So God is working His will out. I was praying this morning over just a lot of different things. And I just reminded myself of this verse. Lord, you're in charge. There's certain things I cannot change, from what I think would be good, what I'd like to see, whether it be for our church or for our land or for my marriage or for my children or grandchildren. God, I need you as to be a part to do His will, both the will and to do of His good pleasure. His pleasure. Boy, that's hard. Because each of us, the best of Christians, have pleasures. Okay? There's all things that pleasure us. We have to be sure that He is preeminent. As Pastor Herb preached on Wednesday night, preeminence of Christ. Okay? His will is to be the preeminent thing that we live for. And His will is His pleasure. And of course, as we work it out, and we come down to this point, as God is working with us, we will get to that point that He will have pleasure in us because He sees that we've tried to work out His will as He's working with us. Alan Redpath said this: there is no shortcut to holiness. Holiness takes a lot of work. Remember what Peter said, be ye holy as he is holy. So there's some goals already impacting change in our life that God has already set. There's others that God will lay upon our heart and stress to us, and the Holy Spirit will guide us and direct us into. But there's enough in the Bible to keep any Christian busy, and one of them just to be holy. But it doesn't come easy. That's going to take work for us. I've titled the sermon for last week, today, very possibly next week, what will change in 2022. I hope for each of us it won't be a change for the worse. And don't assume the worst thing you do. The enemies would love for you and I to assume, well, I didn't have the best year in this area, and this area, and this area, but it can't get any worse. That's exactly what they want us to think. Well, my attendance can't go down worse. My devotions can't be worse. My witnessing, my devotions, that can't be worse than it was. I had some difficult struggles this year in doing the things I know I should be doing, but I know I can't get worse. Oh, it can get worse. And it can get a lot worse. So we want to change in 2022. Recommit ourselves. You hear about couples, taking those vows again, recommitting themselves. We need to, as Paul said, die daily, recommit ourselves every day. I set some goals for 2022 for me, personally. Day number 1, on one of the major goals I set, I already failed. You don't know how discouraging that is. Okay? But because I'm an optimist, and I'm a Christian, I know God will forgive me. I got 364 days left. Get back up and get those changes going again. Okay? Some of the ones, I got a good start in. Okay? But one in particular, I did good most of the day. But it was the end of the day. 4 things can happen. Last week we saw only God can change a mess into a message. And sometimes our life can become a mess in some areas. Last week we considered Rahab the harlot and how God took the mess of a harlot's life and turned it into a message. And of course she's listed in the heroes of faith. We examined the children of Israel when God had called upon them to rebuild the temple. And what a mess was in their lives. They were working for nothing. Busy, 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 busy. But God was not blessing. But they got a hold of themselves, listened to the preaching of Haggai as we turned, and they got things turned around, and they rebuilt the temple. And so there was a great message there of God's forgiveness and grace. And that God can take a mess and turn it into a message. In my own personal devotions, I was in Lamentations this week. And I said, wow, here's another mess. Lamentations 1, let's read a few passages here. Lamentations 1, beginning with verse 1. This is written by Jeremiah. And we all know Jeremiah to be the weeping prophet. And he was weeping over the people of Israel, tribes of Israel, how sad he was at not only no change in their life, but how they had backslid. And they had gotten so far away from God that God had withdrawn His blessing. And you're going to see in just a minute, their life was a mess. How doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How has she become as a widow? She that was great among the nations and princes among the provinces, how is it she become tributary? She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she hath none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies. Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen. She findeth no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn feast. See, worship has come to a standstill. That's what sin does. Sin takes away my worship of God. Whether assembling at feast here in the Old Testament or in the sanctuary, as we're going to see in just a minute, worship is wiped out because of sin. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh. Her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness. Her adversaries are the chief. Her enemies prosper, for the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. She's got a big mess because of her sins. See, sin didn't work things out. Remember, temptation is not wrong in itself, because Jesus was tempted in all ways, like as yet we are, yet without sin. But they gave in to the temptations, and they fell away from God and the work of God and the things of God. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. See, it not only affects the adults, all the children of Israel, which include all different ages, okay, falling back. Your falling back and my falling back affects others, impacts them around us. And from the daughter of Zion, all her beauty is departed. Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction and of her miseries all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old. Maybe one of the worst things, I remember the old days when things were so good and God was blessing. When her people fell into the hand of the enemy and none did help her, the adversary saw her and did mock at her Sabbaths. Jerusalem hath grievously sinned. Therefore she is removed. All that honored her despise her, because they have seen her nakedness. Yea, she sigheth and turneth backward. Her filthiness is in her skirts. She remembereth not her last end. Therefore she came down wonderfully. She hath no comforter. O Lord, behold my affliction, for the enemy hath magnified himself. Go to chapter 2, beginning with verse 5. The Lord was as an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all her palaces. He hath destroyed his strongholds, and hath increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentation. And he hath violently taken away his tabernacle, as if it were of a garden. He hath destroyed his places of the assembly. The Lord hath caused the solemn feasts and Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion, and hath despised in the indignation of his anger the king and the priest. The Lord hath cast off his altar. Look at all the worship of God that's deteriorating. Spiritual things are a mess. He hath abhorred his sanctuary. He hath given up into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have made a noise in the house of the Lord, as in the day of a solemn feast. Terrible scene is going on in the history of Israel. It is a huge mess. And that's what caused Jeremiah to weep. But notice, there was a message. Even in all this mess, there was a message of hope and help. What Israel could do. They could turn this mess into a message. Pick up with chapter 3 and verse 20 as Jeremiah continues. 3:20, my soul hath him still in remembrance and is humbled in me. This I recall to my mind. Therefore have I hope. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. Jeremiah is saying, as big a mess as we're in, God can still be merciful. There's still hope and help with God. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, saith my soul. Therefore will I hope in him. The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. Go down to verse 40. Let us search and try our ways, Jeremiah says, and turn again to the Lord. Let's turn back. Come on, people. Look at the mess we're in. Turn back. Let us lift up our heart with our hands unto God in the heavens. We have transgressed and hath rebelled. Thou hast not pardoned. And he had not pardoned because they had not turned. Look at chapter 5, the last verse, and verse 21 that we'll look at. Turn thou us unto thee, O Lord, and we shall be turned. Renew our days as of old. The problem is, though they could have turned a mess into a message of change, a message of getting back to the old ways, getting the blessing of God back, they would not turn. And so they had a mess, and things remained a mess in their lives. They would go into captivity. There was filthiness, not holiness. There was emptiness, not fullness. There was captivity for children, not the care that God wanted to give. Because there was no change in them, they would not recover from their mess. And there's a message for us today. Even though we've seen change sometimes in people in the Bible or nations, we saw that the Ninevites, how they changed when the message came of God through Jonah. But not always is there a change. And that can be with us. Maybe there's some area of our life, maybe in our spiritual walk with God, something is a mess. One of the primary drivers of our spirituality is our devotional walk with God. Reading the Bible and praying, meditating. And if that's a mess, if I'm giving God a token here and there, I'm probably going to find my life, at least my relationship with Him, in a mess. It can be other areas of our spiritual life. Our service to God. What are we doing? What are we doing with what God has entrusted to us in our time, our talents, and our treasures? God can take that time away from you and me in a moment. In a moment. Because we act like the children of Israel. It can be in our family life. Things have become a mess in 2022. I don't need anybody to point them out. The Lord's already pointed out. I know where I failed. But I can change that mess. This is the great hope. We have the mercy of God. And 2022 can be. Let me tell you one of the greatest things of forgiveness. This is why I confess so much to the Lord. I believe His Word. 1 John 1:9, I multiple times a day, okay, hundreds and hundreds of times a year. Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If we're faithful to confess our sins, okay, we confess them, okay, we just regularly confess them. He's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And I believe that when God forgives, He forgets. I cannot get through that verse quick enough because, God, I'm sorry. I don't want you to think of me that way, that I was thinking that way or acting that way or said that or didn't say that. I'm sorry for how I treated my wife or my children or church people. I'm sorry. Please, let me get through this verse and know that I've got forgiveness. So I don't want you to think of me that way. I don't want to carry that around for an hour or two. But when my heart is pricked about something, help me to be quick to do that. Because when God forgives, He forgets. So I want to get as much out of me as I possibly can. I'm going to have enough that I didn't see a sin or didn't take the time to confess. that I'll have to answer for. But when it comes to my mind, I want to get rid of it. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's me again. It's me again. I know I was just here 10 minutes ago, and I was here about the same thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe it's in our finances. Change needs to take place. Maybe my books, the bottom line. I have coveted so much. I got so much debt. I can't do anything. I just can't control my buying. Or maybe I'm working too much because finances are on my mind and I don't have any time for you, Lord. I don't know what the mess is. I got my own. I'm sure most of you do. Let's be content and committed to the cause of Christ in 2022. Make this year different. It will not happen on its own. It won't happen just because you set a few goals and some resolutions. Okay, if I'm not committed to it and I'm not going to work at it, it'll just be like sometimes every year. We need to turn it around. As Jeremiah was calling for the people of Israel, turn. God, turn us. Turn us. Because we need to complete your will. We got one life. This is it. And I don't even know when it's going to be over. Help me, God, to change. Secondly, this morning, not only can God change a mess into a message, only God can change a test into a testimony. Only God can change a test into a testimony. A lot of tests in the Bible. The feeding of the 5,000. The feeding of 4,000. The feeding of 5,000. The Lord was going to test one of His disciples. We don't have any idea other than there must have been something with Philip that God saw and he needed to be tested. Maybe he didn't think God could do what God can do. But as you read that, and I'll just read it to you for the sake of time, in John 6, verses 5 and 6, when Jesus then lifted up His eyes and saw a great company come unto Him, He saith unto Philip, when shall we buy bread that these may eat? Philip, what are we going to do? Look at all these people. How are we going to take care of them? The next verse says this. And this He said to prove Him. For He Himself knew what He would do. The Lord knew exactly what He was going to do. He's going to do a miracle. Philip didn't know that. Philip was maybe fretting and worrying. And Lord, you're right. I don't know what we're going to do. And the Lord was testing him to try to show him how powerful God is and what God can do. He'll probably test us. How's God going to get me through schooling? Financially? Academically? Socially? How am I going to make it through? Maybe relationship issues. It's over. It's done. And tests will come from God of what God can do. How He can change that test into a testimony of His greatness. We're all familiar with Abraham and Isaac. Okay? Trial of faith. Let me just read you a couple verses. Genesis 22 and verse 10. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. So remember the test. God says, Abraham, go take your son, I want you to offer him to me. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven. He's getting ready to slay him. And said, Abraham, and he said, here am I. And he said, lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, for me. Now I know, I had to see it, but I also think Abraham needed to see it, that I really am committed to God. But this was a test. And from here, I've got our theme for 2022, which we'll start putting around the church, as we normally do for this time of the year. Abraham says to the angel of the Lord, here am I. There's a lot of great men in the Bible said that. Isaiah, Samuel, here am I. Here am I. Lord, I'm here for whatever you need. No matter how difficult or hard it might be, you can test me. You can try me, Lord. I want to change a test into a testimony for God. Here am I. Can we say that? Lord, this is kind of some plans I've laid out. I think they're okay with you, Lord. You know, I'm thinking about that, and it doesn't seem to be, definitely not contrary to word. So, here's what I'd like to do. Here's for my family or relationships or, my finances or my health and all of this. I'm trying to, get everything laid out here, Lord. But I want you to know, Lord, you may call upon me to offer something on the altar that's very precious to me. Just like Abraham had to do. If he'd have told Abraham, listen, go and offer 6 turtle doves and 2 calves. Abraham was a very wealthy man. Been nothing. He took what was precious to him. The son of promise. Offer him. God may put a test in your life with something precious to you. How are we going to do with that test? What are we going to lay on the altar for the Lord? Well, Lord, don't ask me that here. Take this. Let's try this over here, Lord. This is pretty important to me. But don't ask me to do this. He's going to ask us to sacrifice. Whoa, Lord, that's pretty costly. I don't know. And the Lord says, well, I just want to know you. I want to know if you really love me. It's easy to talk, easy to go to church, carry a Bible, clean up, look good for church, because you are coming to worship the King of Kings. Yeah. I just want to know if you really love me. And I want to know if you love me preeminently. I want to know that you love me more than father or mother or wife or daughter or son or and all the way down and more than your possessions and your pursuits. I just want to know that, and I want you to know that. And God may test us this year in 2022. If we want to be down here at the end of the year in salvation, if we make it through the year, His will, His pleasure. If that's what will cause me to bring pleasure to His life, is to show God I can get through these tests. Because God, I want you to know that about me. And I want to know I can do that. That I am that committed. Because easy to talk. Easy to say, God, I love you. You're the greatest thing. Praise the Lord. Until that rubber meets the road in our lives. Thirdly, only God can change a trial into a triumph. As numerous as tests are, I believe there's more trials than there are tests. And God can change a trial into a triumph. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read Job. I have them on your sheets there. You can read them on your own if you want. Remember Job? Oh, man. Whew. Did he go through it? Physically, how he looked, boils, and which were, another book of the Bible talks about, it's like scraping a piece of pottery on your face. Kind of like what they did to Jesus, you know. So your looks, what about God will give you a trial and your looks will be gone? Maybe a burn. Maybe some disease or something. Take some of your looks or some of your limbs. Job went through that. And he went through losing of family members. And he went through all his prosperity, everything he had. And he was a rich man. And Satan tested him. Put him through that trial. God says you can try him. You know, I want to show you his integrity. There's a triumph there in my servant Job. Remember in Job 1, after he hears of the last of these, he said, the Lord gave and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Wow, what a triumph over this. What a triumph over Satan. Satan thought, I can't take his life, but God's given me full range with everything else. Boy, if I take that, he'll whine and complain and gripe. He'll turn away. He'll backslide. Just like his wife. And be upset. Why don't you just curse God and die? He'll just be like them. But see, God knew him. But it was a trial in his life. He's tried by Satan. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Be foolish to charge God. God's in charge of trials in our life. He's watching over. Nothing's going to catch him. He told Satan, you can have full range, but you can't take his life. God's watching over your life and my life. And the trials that come, if they're satanic, let them come. They're going to come. You're trying to do anything for God, especially in a new year. Believe me, with all that I think is going to go on in our church in this year and all that God wants to do in our lives individually and in our families, this could be a fantastic year. In spite of everything else going on outside us. Those trials are going to come. I think part of the pandemic is a trial. It could be for the world to get their attention. I personally believe it's to a great part as well a trial on Christianity. How strong is the church? How strong are the Christians? What are they made of? Job said in Job 13:15, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. If God slays me, well, Satan can't, but if God, doesn't matter. Whatever trial I go through, I want to honor God. I want to remain faithful. And how many questions did Job have? 3 or 4 chapters of question after question. Why? Doesn't mean you won't have questions. Why? But just triumph over them. Triumph over Satan, the world, and the old nature, the flesh. 1 Peter 1:6, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith. That little phrase, if need be. You and I don't think we need trials. I'm not praying, Lord, let 2022 be a year of trials. Okay? I'll try to accept them, Lord. I'll try to have the right spirit. I'm sure sometimes I won't. If need be, that's God. If God thinks you need it. The best way to show God you don't need it is I'm living like I should be. I don't need this trial in my life to show me something, to wake me up, to get me to change. Heaviness to manifest trials and temptations. These are heavy. They can be very heavy. Being more precious than of gold that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. He's honored and glorified. He's pleased. It brings pleasure to Him how we come through these trials. And we can change these trials into triumphs in our lives. I could go into Paul with Philippians 4. I've learned how, whatever state I am, to be content. I've learned how to be brought low and to be raised up, to suffer hunger and to be full. Right after that, Paul says, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. I can go through anything. I can triumph over anything because of Christ. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 2:14, now thanks be unto God, which always causeth us to triumph in Christ. The ability to triumph over trials is there for each of us. Let's be careful this year with the pandemic. It doesn't change us. We got to alter some things for sure. For health, safety, okay, common sense. But spiritual things, be careful that some outside force is not changing me of things that I can control. Finally this morning, what will you change in 2022? Only God can change a mess into a message, a test into a testimony, a trial into a triumph, and finally, very quickly, can change a victim into a victor. Victim. I was going to read you about Stephen. Remember how he was stoned? But then he cries out, God, don't lay this to the charge. Who's watching? The Apostle Paul. Okay? He was a victim. It's okay. I'm going to be victorious over this. I'm not going to let this get the best of me. Of course, Paul, that would probably have an important part to leading to Paul's salvation. You don't know who's watching when you're going through something where you might be victimized. We can be victimized by the government. Okay? Abortions, family, what the definition of a family. It's all kinds of we're victims of things. Let's turn that in to being a victor. I have a couple pastor friends of mine that have been slandered, and both are out of the ministry right now. Okay? False slander. Victims. But to my knowledge, both are trying to praise the Lord and triumph and be victorious over these things. Jesus Himself was a victim of the court system, victim of false accusations. We know He was a victor. 1 Corinthians 15, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. We can be victorious. This can be a victorious year. Now, we can let the devil, the old nature, the world, pull us back and make us act like we're not saved, or just keep us down. We can be the victor. The next verse Paul chooses to use, very familiar verse, after he says, but thanks be to God which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Next verse. Therefore, in light of Christ's victory and what God can do, my beloved brethren, there's that phrase again, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. What a great theme verse for 2022. Serve God. Your labor is not in vain. The work of God goes forward because people are serving. They're involved. They're active. Finding ministries. That's how the church goes forward. Victorious. Paul talked about being a victim of the flesh and the world's sin. He says in Romans 8:37, nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through Him that loved us. Let me conclude this morning. Change. Boy, it's going to be a fight for us. Okay? But God is the God that can effect change in our lives. I was reading a story of a man who made a phone call and he ended up calling the wrong number. And an answering machine came on and it said, I'm sorry I missed you. Please leave a message. Thank you for caring enough to call me. I'm making some changes this year. If I don't call you back, you're one of the changes. Sometimes change means I got to change people I'm hanging with. Maybe they're pessimistic. Maybe they're heading the wrong way. Hang around with good people, godly people that at least want to try to do right. Good change is hard. If it was easy, we'd all be changing all the time and look more like Jesus. I ran across this article going back to the early 1800s when the railroads were just started to be built. And a letter came to President Jackson, January 31st, 1829. And it said this about the railroads. As you may know, Mr. President, railroad carriages are pulled at enormous speeds, up to 15 miles per hour, by engines, which in addition to endangering life and limb of passengers, roar and snort their way through the countryside, setting fires to crop, scaring the livestock, and frightening women and children. The Almighty God never intended that people should travel at such breakneck speed. Just think if there had been no change, what would our transportation look like today? What about there's no change in us? What's the engine that drives us in our change? It should be this. Been saved, but I'm aiming there. This is just one step. Too many people stop right here. It may take a couple little steps, but you look at them 5 years later, they're talking the same way. 10 years later, they've got the same goals and aspirations and stuff. This is what God wants to see. This, if we have this relationship right, this is what 2022 can be about. My mother had a plaque. I was actually looking for it the other day. Prayer changes things. It does. Let me encourage you to pray. God, help me. Show me some areas I need to change in. Some things are seasonal. Ties, hairdos. Some things need to be permanent. And that's always trying to change, ongoing into the image of our Savior. Paul talks about salvation in the Bible in a number of different ways. Eternal change. Job said in Job 14:14, if a man die, shall he live again? All the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come. Christians, that's what we're waiting for. Till that change comes. Could be this year. It will be passed on to glory. Well, the Lord raptures us home. And then my change into an eternal body that will live forever and ever. Paul put it this way in Philippians 3:21, who shall change our vile body that it may be fashioned like unto His glorious body. That's the change for us saved. But for the unsaved, Jeremiah 2:11, hath a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? but my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit. If you're here this morning and you're not saved, don't put your hope in some other God and hope that that's going to get you eternal life. In Romans, Paul talked about that. Those who change the truth of God into a lie and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator. Christians can do that. They can worship themselves, serve themselves. But the unsaved, changing. I'm going to live like I want to live. I'm going to get to heaven, if there is a heaven, they say, like I want to get to heaven. Don't try to change the Bible. Don't try to change what the Lord has said. Warren Wiersbe said this, nothing paralyzes our lives like the attitude that things can never change. We need to remind ourselves that God can change things. Outlook determines outcome. If we see only the problems, we will be defeated. But if we see the possibilities in the problems, we can have victory. Dave Hunt said this, that the Father and Son would love sinners that much is beyond our comprehension. But it ought to awaken a response of love and gratitude within our hearts that will change our lives forever. Peter Marshall said, Lord, where we are wrong, make us willing to change. Where we are right, make us easy to live with. That's a tough one. Finally, Adrian Rogers. The same Jesus who turned water into wine can transform your home, your life, your family, and your future. He is still in the miracle-working business. And His business is the business of transformation. Two more things. One a quote and one an illustration. This man said, there are no hopeless situations. Only people who have grown hopeless about them. Life with Christ is an endless hope. Without Him, a hopeless end. As a closing illustration, I spent some hours in my illustration books and internet just looking for an example of change. And I found a guy that I had really I heard about, but I never had read. I heard a few little snippets of his life. His name, Mel Trotter. He lived from 1870 to 1940. And I came across on the internet a testimony he wrote down in 1909. Basically, he was a big drunkard and became a Christian. He actually became a leader in the early 1900s of fundamentalism. He eventually became the head of the rescue mission in Grand Rapids, Michigan. For 40 years, he was a director because it was a mission in Pasadena where he got saved. Let me read you a couple things. One night I went to put my horse in a barn after a long drive and took my wife to the house. It was snowing and one of the coldest days in Iowa. All of a sudden, the devil seemed to get a hold of me. I had driven my horse nearly as fast as he could go, but I started him out again and drove 11 miles and came back home with 11 big drinks inside me and 3 big quarts of whiskey in my buggy. My wife was brokenhearted. She looked at my face and said, I didn't know where you had gone, but if I had walked through this awful storm, I would have come to look for you. I did not want to do that. I would have given my life if I could have stayed sober, but it wasn't in me. I tried for 6 years to quit. There's no fun in that. Every time I would fall after promising my wife and my boy, and myself that I would never take it again, then I would fall even lower in my own estimation. I would hate myself. Finally, when I would get drunk, I would not go home. I got to staying away on a week's drunk, 3 or 4 days at first, and then gradually longer and longer. I would commit burglary in order to satisfy the awful craving for drink. They were trying to turn me off the whiskey, people around me, but they did not give me a remedy. You cannot tie a big fellow like me with a bit of ribbon. It needs something more than that. They tried the gold cure, and they gave me a hypodermic syringe and 3 bottles of medicine, but I sold that medicine within 15 minutes for 3 drinks of whiskey. And I want to tell you that they couldn't hold me with that thing. I needed Jesus in my heart before the old things could pass away and all things become new. That became my favorite verse in the Bible. God gave us only one baby. And when that little fellow was 2 years and 1 month old, I went to our little home one day. It had almost ceased to be a home. I went home after 10 days drunk and found him dead in my mother's arms, in his mother's arms. I will never forget that day. I was simply a slave, and I knew it. It pretty nearly broke my heart. I said, I'm a murderer. I'm anything but a man, and I cannot stand it, and I won't stand it. I will just end my life. But I did not have courage enough. At my mother's knee, I had been taught by her to say, now I lay me down. And I knew there was a God. I dare not face him, having committed suicide. My wife was alone with a little boy when she laid it down dead. And she turned away to God and said, Father, I've had my thoughts on my baby more than on you. And now I want to turn away back to you. You are all I have left. Mrs. Trotter had never been away from our baby 1 hour since the time of his birth. She had a drunken husband, and her only joy and hope was in her baby, and oh, how she cared for him. And she turned around from the dead child and said, Lord, I'm going to serve you to help others in trouble. I have my husband, and she began to pray for me. That's a thing that counts. When a wife gets hold of God without letting go, there's going to be something that happens. He's at the funeral. She led me to a little room and closed the door upon the 3 of us. And over the body of our dead baby, lying in a little white casket, she made me promise that I would not take another drop. I made that promise, put my arms around her, and told her I would never touch liquor again as long as I lived. And the funeral was not yet over 2 hours before I could stagger home, drunk. I could not even see. Later, going down East Van Buren Street, I went past a place and I heard them singing inside, Throw Out the Lifeline, Cross the Dark Wave. I stopped just a little. And the man outside boosted me. Come in, fatty. Just the place for you. And I went in. Well, bless your hearts, it proved out to be the old Pacific Garden Mission. It reminded me, my home church in Jersey, we used to go down to Atlantic City. They had what they called the Atlantic City Rescue Mission. And we would take down 4 or 5, sometimes 10 people. And they would let churches come in, and some of our men would preach. I preached, I think, my first sermon there. Staggered through it, okay? And we'd sing, and afterwards we'd go talk. We'd feed them and then go talk to them. I remember talking to this one man. He looked bad. My heart's going out to him. He tells me his testimony. He said, I was a lawyer in Philadelphia. And my life just changed, you know. Tried to talk to him about the Lord. Bless your hearts, it proved to be the old Pacific Garden Mission. That's the place in Chicago where an old bum is always welcome. Where they will give him just as good a seat as they will if you were Prince Albert. I got a good seat. And I heard them singing. I went to sleep during the preaching, but I woke up when the testimony started, and I heard the most marvelous stories I'd ever heard in my whole life. Why men and women? I tell you, those boys in there were like the men. They had found new joy. They had been saved by the saving grace of God. Some of them a week, some of them 2 weeks, some 6 months, some 10 years ago. And they were there just filled with the Spirit of God instead of filled with sin and wickedness. And Harry Monroe got up and told how Jesus had come into his life and saved him. He said, listen, fellows, God loves you. And he pointed his finger straight at me. And God was in the whole business. Mr. Monroe gave an invitation, and I was the first man to raise my hand for prayer. I gripped my old cap and started down the aisle, knocked over a lot of chairs on my way down. Mr. Monroe got off the platform and helped me down front. We knelt down there and told me to pray the publican's prayer. Well, I did not know anything about that, but just what he told me to do, I did. I heard the story that Jesus loved me, that I confessed my sin, and He was faithful and just to forgive my sin and to cleanse me from all unrighteousness. That verse, He stood out on me until the night He said, him that cometh to me, I will in no wise cast out. And I turned to Jesus. And all of a sudden, I remember so many times I had heard the story of the cross of Jesus on the way to Calvary. And I saw Jesus bearing His cross with me on it. He would start this mission in Grand Rapids, Michigan called City Rescue Mission. 40 years after God changed his life. What's God going to do with you and me? Maybe He's already got us saved. Maybe things are not all that they ought to be. Let me encourage you to make this the year. Triumph over these things. Have victory. God can take a mess, whatever area, it might just be one area of your life that's a mess. If it's one area, it's not pleasing to God. Let's pray that God would help us to change into His image. Let's pray. Our heads are bowed and our eyes are closed. And the hymn this morning for the invitation is, have thine own way, Lord. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will, while I'm waiting, yielded and still. You're here this morning and you're unsaved. God's will for you is to be saved. He gave His life that you might have life. Turn to Jesus. Be gloriously saved. Don't gamble with your soul. Don't hope the Bible's wrong. Don't listen to the enemies of your soul and think, well, maybe I'll think about it later. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. Don't be so foolish. Come this morning to the altar and be gloriously saved. If you're a Christian, what's the pleasure for you in 2022? What have you begun to plan or prepare for? Maybe you need to come. Come to this old altar and say, oh God, help me. Help me, Lord. I come with fear and trembling. Help me in this one area of my life. Or Lord, I've got so many areas. My marriage, my children, my will, my this and that. Lord, help me. Because I do love you, Lord. But I know that's easy to say, and I know change is hard. But I want to change because I do love you. I want to overcome this thing that's been holding me back, that's causing me trouble. I believe in your word. I believe in you. And I believe I can triumph with your help, you working in me. You come this morning as the Lord leads. Folks are coming this morning. He's the potter. He's got a wonderful plan. He wants to work. He's willing to work with you. He's not asking you to change by yourself. Whatever trial, whatever tribulation, whatever test, God is there. He loves you. He's willing to forgive anything and everything you've done up to this point. And once He forgives you, He'll forget it. So you don't have to carry a burden of, I failed God. No, it's forgiven. It's forgotten. He needs us. It's hard to believe that God needs us, but He does. He's got a wonderful plan for this world, and you and I play a part in that, in reaching others for Jesus Christ. Maybe it's teaching boys and girls. Maybe it's in soul winning. Maybe it's in discipleship. Maybe just through the phone, calling people, checking on them, doing what you can do. Some things you might not be able to do. Do what you can do. That's all God's asking. That's change. Here am I. Here am I, Lord. Father, thank you for just who you are, Lord. Oh, how we are so utterly dependent upon you. Our every breath, every grace that we have, every gift, talent, our time, our treasures, everything is from you. None of it have we earned or deserved. How can we not have high and holy goals for 2022? So much, Lord, that we can do for you to try to reach this world for Jesus Christ. The rich, the poor, the needy, those that think they have everything and yet have nothing. Those that are hurting, sorrowful, weak, the sickly, the diseased, those that are bewitched, those that are possessed or oppressed. Lord, you can help them all. You can save them if they need it. If they're already saved, Lord, you can change things around if they'll work with you. Put that upon our heart as a church in 2022. Here am I. Bless now the remainder of the service in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I got through it. I probably went about 8 minutes over. Thomas kept checking us. No, I'm just kidding. Probably went about 8 minutes over, but I finished it. I really wanted to finish it. I don't like to prolong these messages unless I have to. So it'd been terrible if I tried to finish last week's message. You'd have been here at 2 or 3 o'clock. Okay, so it's good that I broke it into two. Next week, I'll have one. How can Jesus bless you in 2000? Okay, it's a really good message on a passage of verses I've never preached on. So we'll look forward to that. And the last message that we'll have for the new year, as we're in the new year. A couple, as the ushers come forward for the morning